Yeah, Senator Hutchison joins us now here in Washington. Senator, first, I just want to know if you've got any more information, if you've gotten any briefing from either Army officials or anybody on base that might update the information we have of 7 dead and 20 wounded.
I did talk to a general a few minutes ago on the base. He stepped out of a briefing meeting to talk to me, and he was saying in the neighborhood of 30 injured is what they believe. And they have wounded one of the shooters. The other was still at large at the time we talked and was in the building. It was a processing center, and they were processing soldiers to go to Iraq and Afghanistan. They're now trying to gather the information and find out what they can from this soldier who was shooting and is wounded.
And Senator, somebody was talking in my ear, so I missed the first part of what you said, but we've been told that 2 are in custody now. Does that jive again with what you were hearing from the general?
The second one was not in custody when I talked to him, but he was in the building, so I would imagine that he or she probably is in custody.
Okay, so in other words, a standoff at the time with this other person, and we're also hearing, I guess you were just suggesting, there was not a third gunman, so this would at least indicate that they've got the shooters accounted for, at least the preliminary information that you're hearing.
He only mentioned 2, and one was wounded by the military police. The other, they were hunting at the time, and I would imagine that they would be able, the way they have a system of lockdowns, I imagine they do have the second one. He did not mention a third one.
Now, Senator, as far as the hanging question out there about whether these were members of the military, these 2, or just people who were dressed up in military uniforms, did you get any indication from the general about that?
I asked him specifically, and he could not confirm that they were military people. They were still trying to determine that. And, of course, there are civilian employees on the base, probably 9,000. This is such a huge base. There are 50,000 roughly who are military, but there are 9,000 civilians. So they had not confirmed that it was an authorized person at all, or if it were, in fact, a military person.
Senator Hutchison, just to sort of then re-go through based on the information that you've gotten that we've collected, correct me if I'm wrong here on the latest numbers that we've got. 7 dead, 20 wounded, 2 shooters. It's still unclear whether or not they were members of the military or just dressed up to look like members of the military. And the 2 shooters presumably in custody. One was wounded by military police. Another had been surrounded. Does that sound about right?
I was told 30 wounded. 30
wounded.
And everything else you said seemed correct to me for what they knew right now.
Okay, 30 wounded. So now as far as the impact on the Fort Hood community, I understand you've issued a statement expressing your solidarity and your prayers. What goes through your mind when you hear about an incident like this in your home state?
Well, I'm horrified, just like everyone is, and immediately you think of the soldiers who are wounded and dead, their families already under stress because they were processing to deploy. This is a base that has sent so many soldiers time after time after time to Iraq and now Afghanistan. They're one of our most active bases as well as our largest base. So they have really borne a lot of the responsibility for the war on terror. And so to have that happen in this particular base is really heartbreaking. It really is.
And then finally, Senator, just because of the conflicting reports, I wonder if you can tell us, so when you talk about 30 wounded, where are you getting that from? Is that from the general? Is that from officials you've been briefed on? I wonder if you can characterize that information for us. Yes,
that was the estimate that I got from the conversation I had with one of the generals on the base, that they estimated 30 wounded. And, of course, everything is very sketchy right now, so that was the best information. The general also said they want to have a public statement when they feel like they have enough firm information. So I know they're going to try to give the news media every piece of information they have when they feel confident about it. And of course, they are dealing with families right now, too, and wanting to make sure that they have information first.
Indeed. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, Republican from Texas. And Senator, good of you to join us today. We appreciate you coming on.